Welcome to Valiant Tales, a Bright Ideas editorial recording. This is Coffee Cat Jen, and the story I'm going to read to you today is called The Prince and the Badger, or, as I like to call it, Beware of Teenage Divas. This story is a traditional tale from Japan from a long time before anime and Pokemon, and it has only recently been translated into 21st century American. Warning! The characters in the following tale carry swords, and they are not afraid to use them. If you're the type of listener who wants every hero and villain who shows up with his or her head attached on page 1 to still be able to wear a helmet after the happily ever after, then this tale is not for you. Stop listening now. Seriously. On the other hand, if you want a good guy who can think for himself, who follows a code of honor, and who catches a lot of fish, well, then kick back and enjoy. Are you ready? The Prince and the Badger. Many years ago in Japan, there was a 14-year-old prince named Yamanouchi Katsutoyo, who we're going to assume was called Kaz by all his friends. Kaz's dad was once a great samurai or knight, who received his own lands to rule in return for some sick katana swordplay on the battlefield, and the fact that the daimyo he fought for won the war. This is an important point to remember. If you're going to earn your living by selling your sword, choose the winning side, if at all possible. The best that a losing warrior can hope for is an honorable death on the battlefield. The worst is, well, much worse. There's no such thing as a participation trophy for a samurai. But, as we said, Kaz's dad was now kicking back, growing fat on all the rice his peasants grew for him, slurping down sake, and teaching his son how to wield a katana of his own. Kaz, in his own right, was fierce with his weapon, but what he loved most of all was to fish. Because sushi, and because YouTube hadn't been invented yet. Fortunately for Kaz, he had his own servant to carry his gear, clean his fish, and schlep the whole mess to and from the river for him. Fishing, like most things in feudal Japan, was infinitely more fun with servants. One day, Kaz and his servant, who wasn't given a name in the original tale, but who we shall now call Flunky Number 1, were hanging out at the river doing their thing when it started to rain. "That's a wrap," said Kaz, who liked being cold and wet less than he liked raw fish. "Let's hoof it back home before this weather gets any worse." Flunky Number 1 packed up their catch in the poles, and the two headed for the safety of Kaz's crib. But before they made it far, the clouds really opened and the water poured from the skies. They stopped under a willow tree and sheltered beneath its branches for hours, telling knock-knock jokes and complaining about who was taking up the most room under the branches. As night fell, the downpour slowed to a drizzle, as if a cloud giant had turned off a leaky faucet. Kaz and Flunky decided it was time to make a run for it. They didn't get far, though, before they saw something that stopped them in their tracks. A beautiful girl sat along the side of the road, tears streaming down her face. "What the?" Kaz began. He looked at Flunky and was surprised to see a goofy smile on the face of his servant. Flunky stepped up to the girl and bowed. "What's a gorgeous hottie like you doing in a place like this?" he asked. "Sir," she answered in a soft voice choked with tears, "I'm the daughter of a poor man in the next town over. My mom died when I was a baby, and now my dad is remarried and my stepmother is horrible." Her voice shook with grief. "Papa is away on business and I can't take it anymore. My stepmother, she beats me and is such a monster that I ran away." She paused her story to wipe her eyes and look up at Flunky. "Yeah, right," Kaz mumbled. He noticed, though, that Flunky seemed to eat up every word the girl said like it was green tea ice cream. Another time, when he wasn't so wet and cold, Kaz would have made kissing noises on the back of his hand to embarrass his servant. Now, though, he could tell that he was going to have to be the one to take control. "I was on my way to my aunt's house," the girl continued, "who lives in your town, when the shower came. I tripped over a stone and hurt my ankle. I've been sitting here unable to walk, and I don't know what I would have done if you two strong, handsome men hadn't come along." She batted her eyelashes and smiled a smile that turned Flunky into a puddle. Kaz had heard enough. He approached the girl as if to help her up. At the last moment, he drew his sword, and with one stroke he sliced off her head. "What have you done?" cried Flunky number 1. Are you crazy? You... He proceeded to use curse words vile enough to make even a battle-hardened samurai whimper and suck his thumb. Kaz listened, arms folded over his chest, until the older man ran out of steam. When the rant subsided, Kaz faced his servant squarely and said, "First of all, you are an idiot. You have no idea what just happened here." Flunky opened his mouth to protest, but Kaz silenced him by reaching for his katana again. "Second of all," Kaz continued, "you will never mention a word of this to anyone. Ever. Is that understood?" Kaz slashed his blade through the air for effect. They walked the rest of the way home without saying another word to each other. Kaz fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow that night, pleased with his own bravery and unbothered by his conscience. Flunky number 1, however, didn't sleep a wink. He tossed and he turned, trying to get a grip on what he should do. On the one hand, he wanted to forget everything that had happened that day. It was a nightmare he wished he could delete from his memory. Unfortunately, neither the computer nor the delete key had been invented yet. In fact, they didn't even have erasers, so ideas in old Japan were harder to get rid of. And then there was the image of the beautiful young girl's eyes pleading with him. The young prince was at least one chopstick short of a pair, and there was no telling when he would do something crazy again. He might even kill Flunky. That thought decided it. Flunky left his bed and timidly rapped on his master's door. The lord of the house shook with rage when he heard Flunky's tale of the night before. He stormed to his son's room and yanked his child from the bed. "You little coward!" the old prince cried. "How dare you kill a helpless girl? What you did was evil, totally without honor. You are the son of a samurai. You, above all people, know that a samurai's duty is to keep watch over the country and protect the peasants. A samurai carries a sword to slay rebels, not innocent women and children, and if you are too stupid or crazy to understand that, then there's no doubt you will do it again." The big man took a deep breath and glared at his child. "As painful as it's going to be for me to take away the life I gave you, I can't let such a dishonor in our house stand. Prepare to meet your fate." With these words, he released his son and drew his katana, which apparently he had tucked somewhere inside his pajamas. Cool as the snow on Mount Fuji, Kaz glared back at his dad and said, "Whoa, Daddy-o, I get it, but there's something you don't understand. I've been listening to you all these years. I know the code of the samurai almost as well as you do. I would never, ever kill another man, much less a helpless girl, unless there was a really good reason." The old prince arched his eyebrows, but held off swinging his sword for the moment. "That was no girl we saw," Kaz said. "That was no human being. It was some kind of goblin. I'm sure of it." "Go on," his father said, not lowering his weapon. "I beg you, in the morning, send out your men to look for the body. Have Flunky take them. If what you find is really a human girl, I will fall on my sword myself." We need to take a break from the story for just 1 minute to talk about what Kaz said. In modern speech, to fall on one's sword is an idiom that means to take the blame for something. To a samurai, it meant just what it sounds like. Warriors who had done something dishonorable committed suicide, called harakiri, by slicing open their own guts. Ew. Okay, back to the story. The old prince stuck his sword back in his pajamas, and in the morning sent his best soldiers out with Flunky to find the body. There, by the side of the road where they last saw the girl, was the corpse of an enormous, decapitated badger. The men brought both pieces back to the manor house for their master. Kaz's dad was amazed. He called his son in to look at the body. "Okay, kid," the old prince said. "You have my attention. Run me through this one more time. Flunky number 1 looked at this thing and saw a beautiful girl. But it looked like a giant human-sized badger to you?" "No," Kaz replied. "It looked like a girl to me too." "But then how—" The old prince threw his hands up in the air. "Okay, think about it. There's this incredibly beautiful young girl by herself, alone at night, far away from the town, just sitting there. The most gorgeous girl anyone had ever seen. Her beauty was unearthly. It didn't add up." "And that's why you killed her?" his father asked, sounding more confused than before. "Because she was hot?" "No, I killed her because she was dry." "Excuse me?" The old prince shook his head as if to shake the water out of his ears. "Her clothes, they were dry. It had been raining for hours, and she said she had been sitting by the road throughout the storm. But there wasn't so much as a drop of water on her dress. Even her hair was dry." "Oh," his father said, scratching his head. "But what made you think that because she was dry, she had to be a goblin?" "It was simple. That beast over there," Kaz said, pointing at the badger, "must have smelled the fish that Flunky was carrying. He must have understood men enough to know that we are suckers for a beautiful face, but he didn't have enough sense to understand that people stuck in a rainstorm get wet." The old prince was so impressed by his son's wisdom that he stepped down from his post in the region and put his son in charge. If you ask me, that doesn't seem like much of a reward for poor Kaz, who now must have been so busy with his official duties that he never had time to fish anymore. The story doesn't say what happened to Flunky number 1, whether or not Kaz forgave the servant for ratting him out. I like to think that he did, and in time that Flunky met with another beautiful girl, a real one this time, and managed to live happily ever after. The end. I hope you have enjoyed the tale of the Badger and the Prince. This broadcast is copyrighted by Bright Ideas Editoria 2017. All rights reserved.